So this morning, I awoke from a blissful nothingness, and in a fraction of a second, I saw this clown trying to find his web, to retie the threads of life, those millions of memories that make up a slimy ball of me, a silken and painstaking spider's web for catching some similar insect. And in that fraction of an empty second, I imposed a stupendous silence, like an elephant's foot wanting to crush those millions of kindred trivialities, like the nothingness itself that cries no to this life. And then, suddenly, into this nothingness, I heard the cry of 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000 cells in this dazed body. You are there. You are there. You are there. And it repeated the same cry as if it were the very life of life, its pulse, its very breath, since millions of years and disappeared species. You are there. Like a first creature bowing down before its first sunrise, without the vocabulary to cry out its adoration and its thirst for what is there, its air of all times, its respiration. Then, in the center of these trillions of present cells, there was something that recognized and was born to its first sun, its note of the great sea of music forever sung, its first enchantment under the stars which enchanted millions of disappeared and reappeared species to find this same love. But our provisional species is all this. What does it love? Shall we always be these incurable clowns? But the thirst remains, and it is the future's promise. We have tried to quench so many thirsts since the advent of this thinking species. I think, therefore I am, and millions of thoughts have risen to catch this I that is there. And as many unfulfilled shadows have wanted to catch the stars and the disappeared continents, but have always come back on their same conquering steps of nothing. So they invented heavens over there, and popes and various Allahs to dominate and burn alive or cut throats and convert these same creatures to their only God, the Saviour, who only saves his own bank account. And nothing of this old two-legged I is saved, who walks, however, on the first same something that is there, since the first wink of the same sun, since the same music of an infinite sea that loves its waves and rolls to repeat its joy. Perhaps a child could better understand without his already hardened sticky ball that has already swallowed different sacred or not so sacred tiny creatures, to swallow still more and more until the day when a stupendous silence seizes hold of him, and in that sudden nothingness something cries out. And what cries out? What is this forgotten note that suddenly resounds from unknown and known ages, as if it were the only music that fills the whole of infinity contained in a lost second? So he runs and runs to find what is here, and loses himself in the thinking jungle of a strange world. And he is a stranger everywhere except in this. You are there. That bursts forth suddenly through all the pores of his skin, crushed by nothingness. In the name of love, we have put on so many detestable religious beliefs, or stuck on a sexual act prohibited by anchorites who hide forbidden pleasures underneath it. And the pure animal, like the less pure man that followed, finds there an intense joy or an irresistible impulse to reproduce in his offspring this same instinct of joy in a world that was made for infinite love and joy. Unfortunately, for microscopic and more often than not deadly purposes. And the offspring have reproduced too much or deviated this something that wanted to love and love still more, to find itself innumerably in all. Love wanted to love itself everywhere. And our provisional deliquescent species is realizing that it has missed its goal and the goal of the ages. Thus this same love, which, not having found what it is looking for, becomes self-destructive to unearth further on, more vastly, its first smile and its first creative note, fossilized in a small thinking me. Until the day when a first child, annihilated by the futility of its millions of worthless memories that repeat themselves mechanically in a mortal world, starts to cry out through all the pores of an old present cell that remembers something else and its first respiration in the world. You are there. And it is like a first birth to the world. At last he finds himself. You are there. You are there, immediately there, without mechanics around, without paradise over there or in centuries to come. It is all there and all filled, without a hole anywhere. It is the ocean all pierced in a single drop. It is a second of all times, the music of the world in a single note. Then all that remains is to create anew this wherefore the world has blossomed under so many stars. So we scuttle this fossilized little I and land in another world. And how are we going to start again from a single cell without going through geological ages? At the beginning of the last century, which was the last millennium, at the time of the First World War and the ensuing revolutions that dismantled Central Europe, Sri Aurobindo looked at the condition of the world and that of the so-called human species, and he wrote the following in his The Life Divine. Because the burden which is being laid on mankind is too great for the present littleness of human personality and its petty mind and small life instincts, because it cannot operate the needed change, because it is using this new apparatus and organization to serve the old infraspiritual and infrarational life self of humanity. The destiny of the race seems to be heading dangerously, as if impatiently and in spite of itself, under the drive of the vital ego seized by colossal forces which are on the same scale as the huge mechanical organization of life and scientific knowledge which it has evolved, a scale too large for its reason and will to handle, into a prolonged confusion and perilous crisis and darkness of violent shifting incertitude. Even If this turns out to be a passing phase or appearance, and a tolerable structural accommodation is found, which will enable mankind to proceed less catastrophically on its uncertain journey, this can only be a respite. For the problem is fundamental, and in putting it evolutionary, nature in man is confronting herself with a critical choice, which must one day be solved in the true sense, if the race is to arrive or even to survive. No, it is not a question here of surviving the old human life endlessly repeated for some millions of years, but of creating anew or recreating the why this earth has blossomed under so many stars and disappeared species, because they have not found their goal of love and joy, which a first annihilated child discovers wondrously when he cries out from all the cells of his old encrusted body, "You are there!" And in this same, the life divine, Sri Aurobindo made it still more clear when he said, "Man as he is cannot be the last term of that evolution. He is too imperfect an expression of the Spirit. If then man is incapable of exceeding mentality, he must be surpassed and supermined, and Superman must manifest and take the lead of the creation." Now, the supramental is not a supermind. The supramental is what is at the very heart of a cell. You are there.